Hi everyone, Dee here, coming to you from a busy holiday weekend with family, and I wanted to take time to reach out, let you know what's going on. And what are we talking about today? Desire and men. So this is something I really wanted to talk about because it doesn't get discussed enough, and I've encountered in my work as a therapist a lot of people who hold on to a lot of very traditional beliefs around men and sexuality. Specifically, the idea that men are not anything more than perpetually ready for sex at any time for any reason. And the truth is, while we live in a culture that tells men their desire should be constant and everlasting and never change no matter their age, no matter who they're with, no matter their mood, and it should always be almost spontaneous, that isn't reality. We tell men they're supposed to want sex at the drop of a hat, no hesitation. It's a myth. It's not how real human connection and sexuality work. And that's a hard pill for a lot of people to swallow. I've worked with a number of people who have told me, men, women, even non-binary folks who have found deep frustration with partners who aren't always or permanently spontaneously desirous of them. And a lot of times it's also paired with this stereotype of men always being ready, but it's also paired with a belief that the new relationship energy that we all experience for the most part, and the intensity of arousal and sexual or intimate contact is supposed to be forever. A lot of us therapists get told, or also get asked the question, how do we get the spark back? Well, the spark is often in relationship energy. The spark is often excitement, novelty. It's complex. And that's not the whole of what you're really looking for, because that might not be who you or your partner are. In the research presented in Magnificent Sex, and a lot of Emily Nagoski's work, who I think does some really interesting stuff, check her out, and Esther Pearl too, but I don't need to go into that for some of y'all. But in those works, we see a much more accurate, compassionate picture. Sexual desire isn't a one-size-fits-all experience. Instead, there's different patterns, different ways we experience it, and all of it's natural. Some people experience high, spontaneous desire. And we often see this at the start of our relationships. We're really into someone. We love how they touch us. We want to hold hands all the time. We want to snuggle up to them. Or in a more sexual capacity, we see them and game on. The moment we get them alone, it's game time. Time's right down. But that's not the only form of desire. And even for people who experience high spontaneous desire, that is not necessarily a permanent thing. Most of us will go up and down in different situations to which form of desire we strongly experience. Usually, though, I have seen and observed people have a root. So for some people, that root is spontaneous desire. They're ready to go pretty easily. But there's also responsive desire. Responsive desire works differently. It doesn't show up out of nowhere. It builds in response to mindset, to connection, trust, and even what we might call gentle instigation. It happens when we feel relaxed, safe, and often can even manifest as, I'm going to have a good time once we get started. And that is very different than, I don't want this, but I'm going to force myself anyway. Responsive desire is, I'm going to try this and see how it feels, and move towards having the sort of intimacy and connection I want. For many men, desire is like a fire. It needs kindling. Sometimes it needs a little gas. Sometimes it needs that sense of being desired by someone and being appreciated or feeling connected to feel that wanting. And that doesn't make them weak. It doesn't make them odd. It makes them human. In fact, I would say it's a strength, because that means they need to learn the things that excite them. A lot of advice is, well, just do it and then you'll like it. And sometimes that approach has to be different. We have to frame it and come at it differently. It's, I need to warm up. I need to find a way to get to the sex I want to have and the intimacy I want to have. They warm up into wanting. You know, responsive desire is not a malfunction. It's not strange. It's a perfectly normal variation. And a lot of men I have worked with, a lot of men I have been mentored by in sexuality and health, experience as they get older, they become more responsive in their desire. You know, in Magnificent Sex, the authors reinforce that by showing that fulfilling sexual experiences. Let me reword that. Fulfilling sexual experiences show us presence, communication, engagement, stimulation of up here. That creates intensity everywhere else. And that responsiveness can elevate our contact. When we cling to this myth that men always want it, men are get hurt. In a lot of ways, that was an excuse to justify certain behaviors. And it is still used, boys will be boys, all of that. Nah, we're not doing that here. Men who don't experience spontaneous desire are perfectly normal and healthy. And we need to stop treating male sexuality as this everlasting, ever hard, ever ready thing. Because what happens is their partners interpret a different form of desire as rejection when it's really just a different pattern. And that pattern helps. It helps us get to the sex we want, to the intimacy we want. So the next time you think about sexual desire, remember, men's experiences are varied, nuanced, and shaped by circumstances like anyone else's. There is no right way to want. There's no right way to be turned on. There is no right way to be ready. There is only your way, your comfort zone, and your experiences. And we need to make room for that. So I say to the partners of men, start to unpack that internalized stereotype and start looking critically at whether we really understand desire or just the myths that have been taught to us. For men who experience different patterns and wavelengths of desire, embrace it. Again, there's no right way to want. And when we embrace what we like, when we embrace connection, when we talk and explore and communicate, not just with others, but within ourselves, intimacy becomes beautifully connected and meaningful and truly fantastic. Oh, as always, I'm Dee. A lot of different places at this point. Clinically Polyamorous, Naturally Black is one platform. You can find us on Blue Sky. You can check me out and send me a message. We would love to have your comments. And as we enter this holiday season, take care of yourself. Take care of those you love. And I hope that you find peace today. Take care.